to consider for first reading the National Rating Bill, the National Assembly Bills number 55 of 2022. And this one is coming for first reading after it was passed by the National Assembly, and that message was conveyed to the Senate yesterday by the Senate Speaker, Honorable Jeff Amason Kingi. Still on the order paper, there are a number of motions to be considered, and key among the motions is the procedural motion on the alteration of the House hours of meeting for Tuesday 7th and Wednesday the 8th November 2023. And under this procedural motion, the motion is that notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on 16th February of 2023 and on 29th of March 2023, and pursuant to the Senate standing orders, the Senate will alter its hours of sitting on Tuesday 7th November and Wednesday 8th November, so that it will sit for the morning hours starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and afternoon sittings from 2:30 p.m. until the conclusion of the business listed in the order paper, in order to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the governor for Meru County, was impeached by the County Assembly of Meru last week, and that message was read on the floor of the Senate on Tuesday of this week. The other motion is the motion on the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application for conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret. And then the Senate will consider a number of bills under second reading. And key among them will be the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, sponsored by Senator Miraj Abilai, and she is expected to reply on the bill after it was moved and debated at the second reading. And then there is the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill that is coming up for division. And on the Committee of the Whole, quite a number of bills are listed there, starting with the County Licensing Uniform Procedure Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2022, that is sponsored by Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar. And then there is the Agricultural and Livestock Extension Services, sponsored by Senator Maureen Tabitha Mutinda. And then there is the Mang Bill, and also the Startup Bill, the Persons with Disabilities Bill, and also the Kenyan Sign Language Bill that is sponsored by distinguished Senator Professor Margaret Kamar, together with the Senator Christo Asige, who is a renowned and award-winning musician. Under the questions or the statement that will be sought today, there will be petition. There will be statement by Senator Esther Okenyuri, who will make a statement concerning the state visit by His Majesty King Charles III and Her Majesty Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom. And then there will also be petitions that will be read to the House, and among the petitions will be the petition to the Senate by Honorable Simon Lenguia, a resident of Narok County and a member of the Narok County Assembly, concerning the academic qualifications required by a speaker of either county assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly. And then there will be a report by the Standing Committee on Roads on a petition on demolition of Bakston Estate. We can see the procession of the Speaker Center and the Chamber. And the presiding officer today, Speaker, is the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Senator Kadhuri Murungi, who is the Senator for Meru County. And he has taken his seat. We hand you over to the plenary for the proceedings today. Welcome.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to build with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our church. Amen. Oh, yeah. Ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
The Senate quorum bell is being rung for 10 minutes. And at the start of the Senate, it is a requirement that there has to be quorum, and the quorum for the Senate is 15 senators. That is provided for under the standing order 39 of the Senate standing orders. And a particular standing order that is the basis for the ringing of the bell is the standing order 40 of the Senate standing orders that states that if there is no quorum present when the chair is taken at the time appointed for sitting of the Senate, the Speaker shall immediately after the prayer order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes. As we had indicated earlier, the Senate is expected today to consider that variation of its time for sittings so that they can be able to consider the impeachment of one Kawira Mwangaza, the impeached governor of Meru County, and under the Senate Standing Orders 80 on the procedure for removal of a governor. These are the provisions as to the conduct of the Senate, and this is what the Senate Standing Orders provide, that within 7 days after receiving the notice of a resolution from the Speaker of a County Assembly supporting the removal of a governor of a county pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, the Speaker of the Senate shall convene a meeting of the Senate to hear charges against the governor, and the Senate may, 1, by resolution, appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter, or investigate the matter in plenary. The Senate did vote on Tuesday, and they voted to have the matter proceed by plenary, and this is where all the senators will listen and will sit as a plenary, as a committee of the whole to hear the matter of the removal of governor for Meru County. And then the Senate sitting in plenary or a special committee appointed under that subsection that we have read earlier on shall within 10 days investigate the matter, and in the case of the special committee, report to the Senate on whether it finds the particulars of the allegations against the governor to have been substantiated. And then the governor shall have the right to appear and be represented before the Senate or a special committee during the investigations. And the paragraph 4 of that Standing Order 80 is on the special committee reporting that any particular allegation against the governor have not been substantiated. No further action shall be taken under that section in respect of that allegation. And if any allegation is substantiated, the Senate shall, after according the governor an opportunity to be heard, vote on the charges. And the rules for procedure are provided for under the third schedule to the Senate Standing Orders, and the rules of procedure when considering that proposed removal in plenary are listed, and among the rules is that upon the convening of a meeting of the Senate to hear the charges against the governor, pursuant to that Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act, number 17 of 2012, and the Standing Order 80 on the procedure for impeachment, consideration or rather of impeachment, the Speaker of the Senate shall report the resolution of the County Assembly to the Senate and shall read to the Senate the charges against the governor. And this was done on Tuesday of this week. And the Senate shall in plenary investigate the matter and determine whether the particulars of the allegations against the governor have been substantiated. And this will happen now next week. The date appointed. I can see there is quorum. We hand over to the plenary proceedings. Thank you and welcome.
I have two communications to make this afternoon. One is on the address. Minority Leader, find your way to your seat as fast as you can. Just sit. Honorable, okay. The first one is on the address to Parliament by His Excellency the President, pursuant to Article 121B and C of the Constitution. Honorable Senators, Article 121B mandates the President to address a special sitting of Parliament once every year. Article 121C also requires the President once every year to, 1, report in an address to the nation on all the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values referred to in Article 10. 2, publish in the Gazette the details of the measures and progress under subparagraph 1. And 3, submit a report to the National Assembly on the progress made in the fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. Further, Article 247 of the Constitution requires the National Security Council to report annually to Parliament on the state of the security of Kenya. Ordinarily, this report is submitted to Parliament during the address by the President referred to under Article 121B and tabled in the Houses of Parliament. The two senators kindly find your way to your seats. The nearest, actually the nearest possible. Find letter reference number OP/CAB 26/4A, volume 2/52, dated 26 September 2023. The Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service informed the speakers of the Houses of Parliament of the intention of His Excellency, the President, to deliver his inaugural address to Parliament in accordance with Article 121B and C of the Constitution. The Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service further requested the speakers concurrence to schedule the State of the Nation address on Thursday, 9th November 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Honorable Senators, subsequently and after consultation, the speakers of the Houses of Parliament acceded to the request for His Excellency the President. A team of officers has been appointed by the clerks to coordinate the event. Further details will be communicated through the office of the clerk. I therefore take this opportunity to inform you that His Excellency the President will deliver his inaugural State of the Nation address to Parliament during a joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament on Thursday, 9th November 2023 at 2:30 p.m. in the National Assembly chamber. I thank you. The second communication is on the plenary sittings to consider proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Honorable Senators, you recall that the sitting at the Senate held on Tuesday, 31st October 2023, I communicated the dissolution of the Meru County Assembly made on Wednesday, 25th October 2023, for the removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Pursuant to Section 33(3)(a) of the County Government Acts and standing under 81(a) of the Senate, I also read the charges against the Governor of Meru County to the Senate. I read the charges against the Governor of Meru County to the Senate. In a supplementary order paper for the sitting held on Tuesday, 31st October 2023, a notice of motion and motion for the establishment of a special committee to hear the charges against the Governor of Meru County was listed pursuant to Section 33(3)(b) of the County Government Acts and standing under 81(b)(1) of the Senate. Honorable Senators, we will, however, recall that the motion was negatived, and that being the case, the default position for the hearing of the impeachment charges against the Governor of Meru County will be held by the Senate sitting in plenary, acting as the all legislative body rather than a special committee. Honorable Senators, in line with the stipulated timelines in the County Government Acts and standing orders, a schedule of activities for the impeachment hearing in plenary has been prepared. I have therefore appointed Tuesday, 7th and Wednesday, 8th November 2023 as the days when the Senate will investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. The morning sittings will commence at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and afternoon sittings at 2:30 p.m. until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. Consequently, in today's order paper, at order number 9, a procedural motion for alteration of the meeting time of the Senate for Tuesday, 7th and Wednesday, 8th November 2023, for the impeachment hearing against the Governor of Meru County has been listed in order to facilitate the Senate to conclude the matter within the timelines stipulated in the County Government Acts and the Senate standing orders. I thank you. In order to achieve what I've just read in the last paragraph, Honorable Senators, I want to reorganize the business of the day. We move from, we jump to order number 9, the business, and order number 9 in the order paper. So, Clerk.
Order number 9, procedural motion, alteration of the hours of meeting for Tuesday 7th and Wednesday 8th November 2023.
Order number 9, we will come back to order number 3. Is it majority, Linda?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on the 16th of February 2023 and on the 29th of March 2023, pursuant to Standing Order number 32 on the approval of Senate calendar regular sessions for the second session 2023 and pursuant to Standing Order number 34, 4B, the Senate resolves to alter its hours of meeting on Tuesday, the 7th of November, 2023, and Wednesday, 8th November, 2023, as follows. For the morning sessions on Tuesday, to start at 9 a.m. up to 1 p.m., and for the afternoon sessions, to begin at 2:30 until the conclusion of the business listed in the order paper of that day, in order to investigate the proposed removal from office by way of impeachment of the Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Mr. Speaker, sir, like you have noted or mentioned in your communication, this is a procedural motion to give effect to the desire of the House to prosecute the impeachment hearings, the proposed impeachment hearings of Governor Kawira Mwangaza by way of plenary as opposed to way of committee. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we are altering the calendar of the House so that on Tuesday we sit from 9 in the morning up to 1, and from 2:30 until the time we'll conclude the witness hearings. And on Wednesday, the same as well. 9 in the morning up to 1, and 2:30 up to the time we conclude the vote and we bring a closure to the matter. So I want to request all our colleague senators to please readjust your diaries, be present in the House. You chose this route to listen to these charges and make sure that you participate in it. Particularly, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish to see the full participation and the presence of our colleague senators, those that for one reason or the other, like my good friend Senator Sifuna, held the view that a plenary trial is not as thorough as a committee. I'd wish them to experience it firsthand, Mr. Speaker, so that after that then we can have a conversation in future on which of the ways. I'm impressed and particularly happy, Mr. Speaker, that after this exercise, the senators of this session will have experienced trial of an impeachment trial by plenary and by committee, Mr. Speaker, at least up to the level of a report consideration. Of course, it will be impossible to say that everybody will get a chance to serve in a committee unless you impeach, I don't know, as many as 10 governors or something of the sort. But at least on this particular one, Mr. Speaker, every senator, each of us, the 67 of us in this House, will have an opportunity to listen in and follow through, seek clarifications, and so on and so forth. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I don't intend to be long because this is a simple procedural motion, which I expect that you can dispense of quickly and revert back to the order paper as was. Therefore, with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish to request the leader of minority, Senator Justice Retired, Stewart Matsayo, to second this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yes.
I do second.
You have now permission to second and not given you. Oh. Now proceed.
I thank you, Speaker, for the guidance. I do agree with what my brother Aaron has said. I thank you.
Senators, I propose the question that, notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on 16 February 2023 and on 29 March 2023, pursuant to Standing Order 32, on the approval of the Senate calendar regular sessions for the second session 2023, and pursuant to Standing Order 34(4)B, the Senate resolves to alter its hours of meeting on Tuesday, 7th November 2023, and Wednesday, 8th November 2023 as follows. 1. Morning sittings at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and afternoon sittings at 2:30 p.m. until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. In order to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of Meru County. Senator Boni, Kalwale, Majority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do agree with the leader of the majority that we should alter the hours of the House. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important matter. And allow me, Mr. Speaker, to use this opportunity to tell the people of Meru that let there be no confusion. The committee of the whole House, plenary, is just as good as the committee of a special committee. I therefore want to appeal to them at a personal level that I have had enough calls from you. I have received enough texts from you good people of Meru. We are going to make sure that the governor gets justice.
Just a minute, Majority Whip. Senator Mohamed Faki, what is your point of order?
Is the Majority Whip in order to revisit a debate which was closed on Tuesday this week as to whether we go plenary or we go committee. A resolution of the House was made that we go plenary, and therefore there is no need to revisit the issue. People is making the matter sub judice because he's getting calls from Meru of an issue that is pending before the House.
Boni Karwale, you know, during the communication from the chair that day, actually he advised the members not to go into the substance of that motion before that day, before we get to Tuesday or the day appointed for that discussion.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't require any gainsaying. To do so, you would be preaching to the choir. And Mr. Speaker, as far as the point of order is concerned, I would urge the Senator of Mombasa to learn from people who are more experienced. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to assure the people of Meru that we are up to the task. This is a serious matter and we shall dispense justice.
Senator Mutida Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do want to really confirm that all the 67 senators will have an opportunity to be able to give these issues the fair justice it deserves. As women, we've put our word and said that it's going to give us a clear indication if it's women issues, if it's leadership issues, incompetence issues, whatever comes across. And I want to emphasize what the majority leader has said. Kindly let us all be able to avail ourselves on Tuesday on time so that we can execute this issue for the benefit of the great people of Meru. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wakoli David.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Nashukuru kwa nafasi hii kwamba mhusika mkuu katika mchakato wa kubanduliwa nje ya kiti apewe nafasi hii kujieleza wazi, Wakenya wakisikiza madai ambayo viongozi wa wadi wako nayo, waje vile vile wajieleze, na stakabadhi zinazoweza kuthibitishwa na bunge la Senate. Alafu kama ni kunyolewa, Mheshimiwa Spika, watu waandae maji, waandae sabuni, na haki itendeke kwa yeyote ambaye atakuwa na makosa. Na iwapo hana makosa, Mheshimiwa Spika, atasamehewa. Lakini jinsi ninavyofahamu, Mheshimiwa Spika, uongozi lazima kila mtu awajibike, na tutakuwa tunampa nafasi yeye na bunge la county wawajibike kutokana na hoja ambazo wataleta katika jumba la Senate, na yeye na wenzake wawe kielelezo kwa magavana wengine Kenya hii ambao huenda watajipata katika hali kama hii, ama MCAs katika kaunti mbalimbali ambao pia watakuwa na hoja kama hizi, wakizileta hapa wawe wamejiandaa kikamilifu ili tuweze kuamua kama jumba la Senate watu timamu, watu ambao wanalinda ugatuzi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
What is I'm trying to read the mood of this house, but I'm confused by the number of requests coming on my screen on this matter. Is that the mood of the house this afternoon? Yes? Okay. Let me test the mood. Honorable Senators, the mood is that members are saying we close this debate. Yes. And I want to put a question whether you agree with that position, so that we play in democracy in this house. So as many as of that similar opinion say aye. Aye. As those of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. So therefore I put the question. that notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on 16 February 2023 and on the 20... Oh. No, it's okay. That notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on 16 February 2023 and on 29 March 2023, pursuant to standing order that 2 on the approval of the Senate calendar, regular sessions for the approval of the Senate calendar, second session 2023, and pursuant to standing order that 4.4b, the Senate resolves to alter its hours of meeting on Tuesday, 7th November 2023, and Wednesday, 8th November 2023, as follows. Morning sittings at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and afternoon sittings at 2:30 p.m. Under members until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. In order to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Honorable Kawira Mwangaza, the Governor of the Meru County. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Senator Mulgo, this is I have a petition that I want to read, so have your seat kindly. Senator Romene. Honorable Senators, I have a petition to the Senate concerning academic qualifications required to be a speaker of either a county assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly. Honorable Senators, I hereby report that a petition has been submitted to the Senate by Honorable Simon Lenguia, who is a resident of Narok County and a member of Narok County Assembly, concerning academic qualifications required to be a speaker of either of the County Assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly. As you are aware, under Article 119(1) of the Constitution, and I quote, every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing any legislation. Honorable Senators, the salient issues raised in this petition are as follows. A, that the laws of a speaker of either County Assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly require the holder to be equipped with knowledge and understanding of the provisions of the law to enable him or her to fairly, justly, and authoritatively make decisions of the House. Further, that any public office holder ought to be equipped with knowledge of the provisions of the law to effectively discharge their responsibilities. And B, that Article 106 of the Constitution of Kenya requires that a speaker for each House of Parliament should have similar qualifications as for elected members of Parliament, and further, Section 22B(2) of the Elections Act provides that one is qualified to be elected as a member of Parliament if or she owns a degree from a university recognized in Kenya. C, that Section 21(1) of the Elections Act also provides that the Speaker of a County Assembly shall be elected by each County Assembly from among persons who are qualified to be elected as members of a County Assembly, but are not such members. And further, Section 22B(2) of the Elections Act provides that for a person to be nominated as a candidate to become a member of County Assembly, he or she should own a degree from a university recognized in Kenya. The two senators, find your way to your seats. This is a long petition. And D, Senator Chute, Senator Mulugo, you're out of order. Why are you moving when the chair is on his feet? You are roaming like... You are taking 2 years to learn these, the rules of the House. That's surprising. And D, that through the court case, County Assembly Forum and 6 others versus Anthony General and 2 others, Senate of the Republic of Kenya Interested Party, Constitutional Petition E229, E225, E226, E249, and 14 of 2021, consolidated 2021 KEHC 304 KLL, Constitutional and Human Rights. The court ruled that the members of County Assembly shall not be required to have degrees to contest for the seats. And E, that invalidation of the provision of Section 22B2 of the Elections Act for a requirement of a bachelor's degree for one to become a member of County Assembly also implicates that there is no degree requirement for one to be elected as a Speaker of County Assembly. And F, that currently most speakers of county assemblies do not have academic qualifications in law, which makes it difficult for them to interpret and apply the provisions of the law in county legislative matters. So the petitioners therefore pray that the Senate intervenes in this matter with a view to amend, number 1, Sections 21.1 and 22.1b of the Elections Act by adding academic qualifications for the speakers and their deputies of either the County Assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly to be a person who owns a bachelor's degree in laws from a recognized university. And 2, the standing orders of the County Assembly, the Senate, and the National Assembly to be amended to provide that powers of members of the Speaker's panel during whose House proceedings be limited to facilitation of debate, and that matters that require ruling to be referred to the date the Speaker or his deputy shall be available to make a decision. So, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Orders 237, I shall now allow comments or observations or clarifications in relation to this petition for a few minutes. Tausosi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on this petition by a resident of Narok County and a member of the County Assembly on the qualification of speakers of the County Assembly, the Senate, and also the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important petition, and I wish to request that the committee that will handle this matter acts expeditiously and communicates to this House on the way forward, because I think that is a lacuna in law which we need to deal with. But, Mr. Speaker, how I wish they looked at the issue of qualification of the Speaker holistically, and not just the issue of education qualification. There are other aspects that we will require from a Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know that the Speaker of the House like this one, or the National Assembly or County Assembly, must be people of high integrity, people who will lead by example, and people who will protect the established traditions and norms of Parliament. And the Speaker is a key person in the House in terms of ensuring that the House, in its dealing with the people and in whatever form of work it is engaged in, ensures highest levels of integrity, believability, and of course, Mr. Speaker, ensures that the people have trust. Mr. Speaker, we have had speakers in this parliament who have done exceptionally well, who have promoted the independence of parliament. And I think we need to sustain that. So when the committee looks at this matter, it is important for them to look at the matter holistically. Mr. Speaker, we do not expect to have a speaker who is supposed to be the referee and is a player at the same time. We are getting into a situation where our speakers are even putting on party colors. Our speakers are even engaged in day-to-day politics, in funerals, in harambes, in churches, and I think this country is treading on a very dangerous ground if we allow our speakers to be involved in that kind of thing. We want our speakers to be people who cannot be questionable, people when they sit on that seat, they exercise independence, they exercise trust, they exercise integrity. And I think
there is a point of order from Senator Boni Karwari.
Mr. Speaker, our standing orders are very clear that if a member wants to discuss the conduct of another member, the member knows what to do. The Speaker of the Senate is a member of this House. The Speaker of the National Assembly is a member of the National Assembly. And therefore, if he's not comfortable with the way they put on their clothes, let him approach the House with a motion and we are going to dispense with it. Is in order to discuss the conduct of speakers of this parliament without a substantive motion, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni Karwari, have your seat, Senator Boni. The Honorable Senator has not mentioned any individual during his presentation. He was just giving the qualities of Angundi Speaker, but he did not mention any speaker by name. And if we targeted me, you know, he could not be speaking now. So I think just conclude 1 minute. And Honorable Senators, if we give you an opportunity, 2 minutes are enough to make your comment on a petition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for saving me from my big brother, Boni. Mr. Speaker, I have not mentioned anyone's name, and I do not want to mention anyone's name. I am simply saying that whoever holds the position of the Speaker must rise above the politics of the day and must be seen to be independent and must be seen to be fair to all the members of the House. But when some actions are done...
Also, Senator, also, you know this petition is on qualifications, academic qualifications. So just comment whether it is okay, it is not, and so that we make progress.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was saying that the committee must look at the matter holistically in terms of qualification and the conduct of the Speaker. To end this contribution, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I think it's a very wrong thing for the speakers to be engaged in politics and even be party leaders of political parties. How will they exercise fairness? How will they exercise independency? Because they are party leaders of parties and they are sitting on the speaker's seat as a speaker of either National Assembly, Senate, or County Assembly. I think this is a very serious matter, regardless of which political position you are in, Mr. Speaker. This is a matter that if not handled, we are not going to have a house that is respected by Kenyans, a house that is going to pass laws which Kenyans are going to obey. Mr. Speaker, I support the petition.
Honorable Senators, you know, according to our standing orders, the comments on a petition should not take more than 30 minutes. From the members interested to make their comments here, if you allow free will discussion, then only maybe 2 or 3 will be able to give their comments. So strictly time 2 minutes to make the comment. Senator Mandago, Jackson. How many chairs do we have, Senator Mandago? Who are you listening to?
Point of clarification.
I've given you an opportunity to give your comment.
Can we,
What is your point of clarification? What do you want to clarify?
Mr. Speaker, in my understanding of the standing orders, a motion for limitation of debate should come from the floor. It cannot be the place of the Speaker to limit the amount of time that members are going to contribute on any particular matter.
This is a special session today, and because of the business that we have, Senator Sifuna, actually we are at the bottom. Even I'm actually trying to help you so that you can make your comments. Senator Madago, are you ready for this, or I give Senator Chalgay? Senator Chalgay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to support this petition through you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to say academic qualification for speakers is important for understanding and movement of the House. But, Mr. Speaker, leadership comes from God. So, Speaker, we should avoid being prescriptive. And you remember, Mr. Speaker, in the last session, under Elections Act, we postponed academic qualification for the MCS and members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. My own thinking as a leader in this country, Mr. Speaker, because it's God-given, we should just be proficient in English and Kiswahili. You don't need to have a diploma or certificate, because leadership is not equated to academic qualification, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, there is no need to disturb members of County Assembly, MCS, to go for degrees, to go for diplomas, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't make sense, because when you are leading, you need wisdom. You need Solomonic wisdom, Mr. Speaker. And finally, in terms of academic qualification for the speakers, I think they need to be cognitive of English and Kiswahili. If you are proficient in both, Mr. Speaker, and I think outside academic qualification, I agree with my colleagues that we need issues of leadership and integrity, issues of competency in terms of ability and cognitiveness of what happens, Mr. Speaker. Let us not equate good leadership with academics, Mr. Speaker. We have seen professors failing nations and societies. But we have seen people who loved at class 3, like Mulu Mutisha, like Ezekiel Baringetuny, Mr. Speaker, or like Oletipis, who straddle the leadership of this country like Colossus, Mr. Speaker, because of their unique. Even President Moi was a P1 teacher. He became a professor of politics and led this country for 24 years, Mr. Speaker. There is nowhere that says you must be qualified, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from the hecklers? Mr. Speaker, I want to say, in conclusion, that let us avoid. We saw people like Kwame Nkrumah, the people who are like Mr. Speaker.
There is a point of order from Senator Dulo.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for Senator Cherargei to tell members that these honorable members are hecklers? Can he apologize to the House? Thank you.
Senator Cherargei, can you use parliamentary language kindly? Can you withdraw if you have insulted members?
Mr. Speaker, I am making serious points. I wish to apologize. I know it is because it's nearing weekend. Some of the people are rehearsing out to Econ over the weekend. I support Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wabu Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will only say two things about this petition and then say a thing as a leader in this House. Mr. Speaker, I am in full support of this petition. Yes, academic qualifications are important, but also the dignity with which people carry themselves is also important when it comes to public leadership. Mr. Speaker, the committee that will be given the responsibility to deal with this petition should seriously scrutinize the application of Chapter 6 of the Constitution in the appointment and election of speakers of county assemblies, and indeed actually speakers of war assemblies. So, Speaker, the other thing that I wanted to say as a leader in this House, that, Mr. Speaker, and I will never get tired of saying this thing, it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to uphold the dignity of this House by being guided by our own standing orders and rules of debate. The Speaker, it is not right that a senator would just wake up from their seat and use derogatory language against their colleagues and be comfortable with it. Mr. Speaker, it is not right. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, when it comes the time that you're going to use to debate any motion that comes to the floor, let debate flow. Those who get an opportunity to debate will debate. Those who don't get the opportunity, they don't get the opportunity. Let's just debate flow so that, Mr. Speaker, we are able to extract some value from these debates. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. But I want to remind you that this is not a motion. This is just a petition. And I'm giving members an opportunity to give a comment, 1 minute or two for a comment, and checking on the list that I have. Because also as the chair, I shouldn't be embarrassing all issues that are here. So this is not a motion, number one. This is a petition, and I'm just allowing comments. Senator Tobiko Pelis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I see this to be a very important petition. Mr. Speaker, it raises very pertinent questions, Mr. Speaker, on the qualifications of all the speakers in the country, both in the national assemblies, the national parliament, and also in the county assemblies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe we should raise the threshold on people who are going to lead these honorable houses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do disagree with anybody who says academic qualifications are not important for the speakers, because they are, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is very important that the leadership of these honorable houses across the country have the necessary academic qualifications, have the necessary capacity, Mr. Speaker, and have the integrity that goes with the office, Mr. Speaker, and that these are people who have no questionable character, Mr. Speaker. And so I will go beyond academic qualifications, that they should also be people of integrity to meet Chapter 6, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I'm particularly concerned with those who are speakers of the county assemblies, because I see at the national level we are doing well, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, some of the people who have been appointed to be speakers in some of the county assemblies across the country, Mr. Speaker, really, the situation is wanting, Mr. Speaker. I heard a speaker from one of the county assemblies
Your time is up. Senator Sifuna Edwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I happen to know the gentleman who sponsored this petition, Simon Lenguya, is nominated by ODM to the Assembly of Narok. ODM is the largest political party in Eastern Central Africa, and I happen to be the Secretary General of the party. Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that I support the petition, that in fact, we are not arguing about whether people who have questionable education or no education at all cannot lead. But we are saying what education does is to give you or grant you the tools to be able to effectively lead. I am a strong supporter of some basic minimum level of threshold of education, not just in leadership, in everything in life. It is a tool that is available for us, and especially because a few years back when Kibaki was the president, he initiated this process of free primary education so that we really don't have an excuse as to why we cannot acquire basic education. And I know, even under the Constitution, basic education is a right. So, Mr. Speaker, people should be able to exercise and encourage people to acquire knowledge and to acquire qualifications as tools to enable them to, effectively discharge their duties. If you look at the range of decisions that have to come from the chair, or any speaker in the county assemblies, here in the Senate, in the National Assembly, there are serious issues that need consideration. And sometimes I feel personally very lucky that I'm a lawyer. And in my experience in this House, when the lawyers are seated on that chair, I feel like I'm talking to people who understand what I'm saying, as opposed to others who might. I am speaking as a lawyer. If you are a charcoal seller, you'll also stand and tell us your experience in this House. Don't heckle.
So, Mr. Speaker, I was saying that I feel like we are a bit lucky, those of us who have lawyers as speakers, because they are easily, they are easy to direct on matters of the law.
Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't want to comment on what Senator Sifuna said. Most of us in this house are not lawyers, but I just want to say it is important that we check the qualifications and the minimum qualifications that speakers are both at the county assemblies and National Assembly and Senate. Honorable Speaker, even as we put minimum qualifications, the committee also needs to evaluate the speakers of National Assembly since 63 up to now, between those who were lawyers or who are lawyers and those who were not lawyers, because we've also had speakers in the past at National Assembly who were not lawyers. Honorable Speaker, I only see one challenge on the position of Deputy Speaker, because some counties might not elect or nominate an MCA who is a lawyer. So what happens? So it's also important to look at that. You are a Deputy Speaker and you're not a lawyer and you're doing very well. You remember in the last parliament, actually the 11th parliament, the late Governor Joyce Laposo was not a lawyer and she was a Deputy Speaker. She did very well. So basically we need to look at that. Otherwise we'll put ourselves in a problem, especially at the counties, because they might not be able to elect or nominate a lawyer. So maybe we just put minimum qualifications, degree, relevant field, but for National Assembly and Senate, basically for the last few years, we've seen that most of them have been lawyers. But the last speaker of this house, Lusaka, was not a lawyer. And he did well. Thank you.
Senator Boru Ondinga.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to add my voice to this petition. It is a very important petition, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that we need quality. We need quality in our debates. We need quality in our leadership. Because, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the Speaker, as a leader, must lead with knowledge. Therefore, I believe that speakers should be people with some qualification. But I don't believe in, making speakers from lawyers. Mr. Speaker, once you understand these standing orders, we had an MP called Martin Shikuku. Martin Shikuku was a very, very good debater in the House, and he could control the House. If he was a speaker, he would have been a very, very good speaker, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what I think is important is to have qualifications for them, but those qualifications should not be restricted to being lawyers. That is my first take, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my second take is integrity. Once you are a speaker, please remove yourself from partisan politics. Mr. Speaker, there was a speaker here called Slade, Humphrey Slade. My father was fighting for independence, but Humphrey Slade came up to Bondo to visit him. He did not fear that that person was in the opposition, and he was elected by people who are supporting Her Majesty's government. So, Mr. Speaker, once you are a speaker of everybody, and you must not be seen to be partisan.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think as the chair of the devolution, I support this petition. Because what is happening now in our assemblies is actually a very unfortunate situation. We are not saying that they must be lawyers, but however, they must be able to comprehend and able to at least communicate and understand what other members are saying, and able to at least know the standing orders and how to execute their duties properly. Honorable Speaker, you have seen, especially I have no problem with the the National Assembly and the Senate. Because both of them are lawyers, I know. They are going to school. We must have, this is a country that most of us have gone to school. That this is a country that has been held high in most parts of the other African countries. So we don't want to have people who have not gone to school to be at least the way my brother, the Mashujaa senator for Nandi said. I think we need to have at least people who are able to read and write. We must have a minimum, bare minimum, for anybody to become a leader, especially because this is where the laws are made. This is why the people talk, we debate. This is house of debate. If people cannot even articulate what they're saying, then you don't need to have those kind of people there, in this house. So that's why you see most of the times the counties people are fighting, fist fighting, They solve their problems in fighting. So, and I think that's because of lack of communication. So I think I will support and I will say that the petitioner should be heard very well and supported. Thank you.
Senator Okech, Hedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I totally support the petition, and I hope that we probably will make it better in our conversation and deliberations. Because, Mr. Speaker, in this House, the fundamental things that the Speaker does functionally, one, other than just being a facilitator and a moderator of what is happening in the House, is making sure that people adhere to standing orders that run all these houses. And Mr. Speaker, if someone doesn't understand basic questions of standing orders, Mr. Speaker, I wonder how they'll be able to help the House operate. And Mr. Speaker, I've also seen from my experience in this House that the Speaker has got so many decisions that the Speaker has to make, and in most cases, the Speaker is invited to actually write down his or her rulings. I'm wondering if we don't have somebody who is qualified with some basic minimum, some bare minimum education qualifications, how then does such a person be able to actually articulate these issues? But Mr. Speaker, I've also listened very carefully to the argument of my friend Senator Sifuna. I think maybe what we should have cushioned us from is maybe getting speakers who are just randomly picked from some councils in the villages, but a bare minimum qualification does not really stop at lawyers. I think this country faces so many economic challenges that economists will be the best speakers, because the decisions we're making in this House most of the time, Mr. Speaker, economists can be able to help with high cost of living, resource allocation that is always happening in these houses. The laws are written, they are easy to read, they are there for us. But having serious economists have been a problem who can help guide the House sometimes on matter conversation. So I would encourage
Senator Mandako Jackson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the petition by the Honorable Member of County Assembly of Narok, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support, but with amendments. First, to say that it's not only lawyers who are qualified. Honorable Speaker, we've seen even during the constitution-making process, there are a number of institutions and organizations that put themselves in the constitution, restricted some opportunities to themselves. Honorable Speaker, I think the minimum qualification for a speaker, in my view, Mr. Speaker, should be a degree. But for elected leaders, Honorable Speaker, I really don't have a problem with any leader being elected, but those who are going to assume position of responsibility like the Speaker, should be the minimum qualification should be a degree. Honorable Speaker, should we have an opportunity to amend the Constitution following the ruling that was ruled in court, that even governors should not have any qualification? I think it is a serious upshoot on the rights of other Kenyans for senators, for governors, for MPs, for members of parliament, for MCAs to be elected without any qualification. But we expect to oversight people, we have demanded that they must have certain minimum academic qualification, they must have certain minimum years of experience when those who are elected a majority may not have the capacity to even interpret. Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with my colleagues who have said that the qualification, yes, must be there, but must not necessarily be a lawyer. Unless a number of lawyers, and I think there are people who are looking for jobs because these days people have decided to leave their professions and begin doing other things, so they want to.
Senator Okongo Mugeni.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Mr. Speaker, we need to appreciate the good MCA from Narok, who, by approaching this House with a petition, has demonstrated a lot of faith in the Senate. You know, Mr. Speaker, for an elected MCA to elect between National Assembly and the Senate and choose Senate, it demonstrates the kind of faith that Kenyans have on this House called Senate. But the issue of academic qualification is not as simple as it may look. Last term, Mr. Speaker, I chaired the Committee of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, and we were trying to do some amendments on this issue of academic qualifications. And Mr. Speaker, when we asked Secretariat to pick best practices, we were shocked that countries that we deem to be very developed, like US, don't have anything like academic qualifications. In fact, we asked the Secretary to give us an example of one of the best speakers in the US, Nancy Pelosi. And they struggled. They said when you Google, the only thing they tell you about Nancy Pelosi is that she's a believer in accountability, she's a believer in transparency, she's a believer in human rights. Nothing about academic qualification. So if I was to look for a good speaker, I look for a speaker who is a man or a woman of integrity, Mr. Speaker. Because you can have a degree including law, but when you occupy the seat of speaker, you become a tragedy, a shame to the entire profession. So this thing of academic qualification, Mr. Speaker, is something that should put under the table. Somebody has spoken about Martin Shukuku. Martin Shukuku never went to any university to obtain a degree. Yeah, he's a Form 2, but look at the marks he left behind. So, Mr. Speaker, sorry, my time is up.
Actually, our 30 minutes we have exhausted them, the 30 minutes, but maybe let me give one from either side. Senator Boni Garware.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at the Constitution of Kenya, it has specified that the Chief Justice must be properly schooled in law, one arm of government. The other arm of government, the executive, the president must have a degree. What would be wrong in insisting that the third arm of parliament, speakers, must have a degree? It's important that they have a degree. Mr. Speaker, Kenya has come of age. We have a lot of graduates on the market in all fields. And I want to use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to encourage our brothers and sisters who are lawyers in the Republic of Kenya. Don't be afraid of other professionals from other disciplines. If you come here and you're a lawyer, you want to be a speaker, Edwin Sifuna, you will compete with professionals from other disciplines. If you are better than them, if you are better than economists, if you are better than engineers, than surveyors, of course you have no chance against doctors, you'll prove it. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to agree with the petitioner that we should insist that only lawyers at the county level and at the national level should be speakers. And I want us to teach our children that when, Mr. Speaker, that when we insist on academic qualifications, it is not because we are looking down upon those ones who don't have education to that degree. We are just simply using it to say that if you must fly a Dreamliner, you don't use a Matatu driver. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, from the word onset, I want to support the petitioner and to clearly say that a speaker must have the required education standards, Mr. Speaker. One of us has talked about the only requirement to have been proficiency in 2 languages. But Mr. Speaker, language is a skill one could learn just by heart. And it does not depict a scope that is required to oversee an assembly. Mr. Speaker, I disagree that a speaker must be a lawyer, as Senator Sifuna says. My late friend and mentor, the late Honorable Joshua Ojode, I can share with you, cautioned some of us about 2 groups of people one must be worried about in our communities. One of them was a lawyer, and the second one was a KANU member. I do not know for what reasons, but coming to it today, I think, Honorable Speaker, we only need education for one to be a speaker, and that education must be a higher education, Mr. Speaker, sir, because education opens your scope, your application, and the way you comprehend issues. And so, Mr. Speaker, we cannot reduce speakers to be people who are only going to be to funerals to talk in their mother tongue, because these are going to be heads of assembly, people who will oversee or oversight, representation, and legislation, and so I support that they must possess a higher degree. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Last but not the least, Senator Veronica Maina.
Sir, thank you for this opportunity. I want to support the petition that is before the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker. There are certain things and certain aspects and certain principles that are learned by lawyers in college, which may not be learned in other disciplines or in other degrees, Mr. Speaker. One of them is in decision-making, basic fundamental principles of upholding. Listen through, good people. Let me finish,
Senator
Mr.
Wambua,
Speaker.
what is your point
and
of
I'm
order,
supporting the
Just a minute,
petition.
Senator
It is
Veronica.
not my petition. Yes.
Point of order by the Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the senator who is a lawyer training the Speaker must not be allowed to mislead this House and this country. That decision making is only taught in law schools. Mr. Speaker, I am not a trained lawyer, but I make very informed decisions, both on account of my training as a journalist and as a logical human being. Mr. Speaker, she should not be allowed to mislead the House. I thank you.
Senator Veronica, you are accused of misleading the nation and the House.
Speaker, in my profession as a lawyer, I have never misled one person. I have never misled any client. I cannot mislead a Senate, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to explain to you, Mr. Speaker, to the House, Mr. Speaker, that the kind of decisions that you need to make at this level are equivalent to the decisions that are being made, not just at the High Court, not just at the Court of Appeal, but even at the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. While many people may qualify, Mr. Speaker, to sit on that speaker's seat, yet you must pick the very best that must deliver the best result you can get from that institution, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this conversation should be moving to a position where we are saying the substantive Speaker of the House should not just be a holder of one degree, which has become a commonplace. It should actually be at a master's level. So we need to step up this conversation, Mr.
Thank you. Our time is over, the 30 minutes. Clerk, call out the next order. Where are we? Oh, sorry. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 2381, the petition is committed to the Committee on Justice, Legal and Human Rights Affairs. And in terms of Standing Order 2382, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of order. Senator Mandago. Senator Nyutu. In terms of Standing Order 2382, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading the prayer to respond to the petitioner by offer a report addressed to the petitioner and laid on the table of the Senate. I thank you. There is a report from the Chairperson Standing Committee on Loans, Transport and Housing. Senator Sifuna, are you in charge today?
Yes.
Okay. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. It gives me great privilege to present the following petition. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following report on the table of the Senate today, the 2nd November 2023. This is the report of a Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on a petition to the Senate by Mr. John Suma and other residents of Bakston Estate regarding eviction from and demolition of Bakston Estate in Vita constituency of Mombasa County. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the committee, I spoke to the chairperson this afternoon. We want to take this opportunity to thank every person from the petitioners to the county government of Mombasa, to the developers and everybody involved in the Bakston project for their cooperation during the duration of the hearings of this particular petition. Mr. Speaker, just allow me to make brief remarks regarding what we have observed as a committee when it came to the Bakston project. Mr. Speaker, one of the most glaring observations we made is that there is an abuse of the term affordable housing when people are constructing units within this country, Mr. Speaker. Because even though this project at Bakston was titled an affordable housing project, it turned out that in fact for many of the residents of Bakston, these houses were not affordable. Mr. Speaker, the second thing we noticed that the agreement between the developer and the county government did not take into account the purchasing power of the people who are living in Bakston who are to give up the land for this development. One of the most glaring omissions, Mr. Speaker, we noticed was the absence of a tenant purchase scheme in the sale agreements or the agreements between the county government and the developer. What that meant, Mr. Speaker, because many of the residents of Bakston thought that they were being relocated for a brief moment of time and that once the construction of the development was over, they would return to units that have been assigned to them by the county government. They would continue paying rent in the manner in which they were paying until the point at which that rent was sufficient to offset the purchase price of those units. This has not happened. And you will see in the recommendations that the committee has made. And Mr. Speaker, in closing, just allow me to highlight some of the recommendations that have been made by the committee, because I think these are far-reaching, especially in the times that we live in when the term affordable housing is in vogue. We here in Nairobi alone, Mr. Speaker, we are redeveloping 13 of our old council estates. And we have sworn, as the members of the committee will bear me witness, that what happened in Bakston will never happen in any other estate. And especially because I am the Senator of Nairobi. The developments that are happening now in Nairobi, I would not want what has happened in Bakston to happen in Nairobi. These are some of the recommendations, Mr. Speaker, and I'll run through them very fast because I know I only have limited time. Number one, Mr. Speaker, the committee has recommended that all public-private partnerships of housing agreements must be made public.
they must be made public so that we address the question of non-disclosures of issues that affect members. Many of the residents of Bakston were getting shocked during the hearings before the committee that the agreements did not have a TPS or tenant purchase scheme clause. So we want all the public-private partnership agreements on housing to be made public, to be available to the members of this House and even the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the second one is that public participation must be done on every single project, and it must involve effectively all the people who reside in the land that is going to be used for that development. I am happy that here in Nairobi I have seen an attempt by the county government to give residents of the estates that are affected an opportunity to speak to the proposed developments. Mr. Speaker, another key one is that the developer and the county government of Mombasa must fast-track allocation of the houses to those who completed payment, because there are people who completed payment for their units and they still don't have those units. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, to the petitioners and the people who missed out on the houses, we have made a recommendation here that, Mr. Speaker, the State Department of Housing and County Government of Mombasa must develop a mechanism to ensure the remaining 336 tenants of petitioners acquire units in Bakston through tenant purchase scheme under the National Housing Fund and submit a report to this committee within 60 days. Because this is the only way, Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that the people of Bakston get justice. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have also made an allocation that the county government of Mombasa should allocate its share of 184 units to the former tenants or petitioners immediately. Mr. Speaker, lastly, that arising from finding of the tendering process for the redevelopment of other estates in Mombasa County, the county government of Mombasa needs to furnish this committee with a comprehensive report on the status of a tendering process within 14 days. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by thanking the Senate and the Speaker and the Clerk of the Senate for the support provided in the discharge of a mandate of this committee to ensure that we resolve the issues expeditiously. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Thank you. I want to give maybe 2 or 3 senators for brief comments. Senator Manzo Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to comment on this very, very important petition. Mr. Speaker, on the matter of housing in this country and the future of ensuring that there is enough housing for everybody, Mr. Speaker, there must be a program which the people take along with the government, and that it is applied equally and sufficiently to all people, Mr. Speaker, so that justice is seen to be done. Whatever happens in Nairobi should be seen to happen in Mombasa, should be seen to happen in Makueni, should be seen to happen in Kiambu and any other part of the country, Mr. Speaker, so that there are no different standards in different parts of the country as to the housing projects, and the most important, especially where people are being moved out of land, and that land is going to have government housing for the people, and the people are going to pay for it or have a system of making sure they don't lose their land. As it happened in Mombasa and it's happening in Kibra, Mr. Speaker, it should be the same people who were displaced from the land who should go on to get the first priority to benefit from this program, Mr. Speaker. The moment there is equity, then it will be fair to everybody, and priority must be given to the vanquished and those who have no property or place to stay at all. Mr. Speaker, I support and thank the members who went to Mombasa and made sure light has been seen for the benefit of the petitioners and the whole country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mohamed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me say today, Honorable Speaker, I am in this committee of roads housing, and this petition came before us. And Mr. Speaker, this petition was brought by tenants, former tenants of Bakston Estate. When this tendering process was advertised, there was only one tenderer who tendered for that land. The land is 13 acres, and when the tenderer submitted his tender, because it was only one tenderer, it would have been a process which was non-responsive. At that point, that tender would have been nullified. They didn't. That was one grave mistake. Number two, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the cost of that Bakston land today, looking at it per square meter, Honorable Speaker, it is surprising to note that the price in Bakston today is 90,000 shillings per square meter. And the neighboring estate, which is being built now near the stadium, is going for less than 70,000 per square meter. Honorable Speaker, this issue of affordable housing is a scam. Why am I saying it's a scam, Honorable Speaker? If you look at the government giving land for free, number one, the same government is giving tax-free building materials. Same government is giving value-added taxes free. And also transferring that land is free of charge. And how, I don't know what kind of calculation they're making. After giving free government land, which is a public land, to an individual, and then that individual builds properties at not affordable price, but at an affordable price, commercial price. Mr. Speaker, if you go today, Honorable Lomonen is my witness. He bought 104 square meter property in Great Wall. He bought 2 maisonettes, 2 apartments, at the cost of 3.5 million shillings. He has documents. I am his witness. And if you look at 104, you divide 3.5 million, divide by 104, you are getting that land at 34,000 shillings, 34,000 per square meter. So why should somebody tell me that after giving this land for free, this land, the price should go to 90,000 per square meter? I don't know why. Honorable Speaker, lastly, in that committee, my view was that the government has lost land to fraudsters in the name of developers. The Speaker, I will tell you today, after 10 years, there is no land that will be left for Kenyans to use because all the land that is supposed to be developed by the government has been taken over by fraudsters pretending to be developers. The Speaker, my view was in that committee, although I was a minority, had a minority view, was this matter should be subjected to Anti-Corruption Authority, EACC, because there is a fraud that was castigated between the developer and the county government of Mombasa. Mr. Speaker, if you go to South Sea today, Eastleigh today, if you want to do any development and you have the money, you can go to the landowner. And today, the mathematics are very simple. The landowner will be getting 30% of whatever is going to be developed on that land. And it's what everybody knows. I can show this government about 1,000 contracts that has been dealt with between a developer and the landowner. And it's very simple. You can build 100 units. If you build 100 units, 30 units will go to the landowner. But in Bakston case, Honorable Speaker, is 90, the developer gets 90% and the landowner gets 10%, simply because this land belongs to innocent Kenyans, because it's not an individual. That project, I agree. If the president can hear me, he should stop all developments purported as being affordable housing. There is nothing like affordable, Honorable Speaker. These are crooks, thieves, and calculated move of stealing from this country.
Senator Chute, I'm not comfortable with the words that you are using to describe those contractors.
Honorable Speaker, let me
Can
very
you
clear.
use better wording on
Honorable
as you
Speaker,
express yourself?
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, why am I trying to say this? I am a businessman for the last 30 years. And I know when this deal is bad, I know. And this deal, why am I saying this deal is crooked? It's because why should it be 90 for the developer and 10 for the landowner? The landowner is a Kenyan. Is Kenyans. They are Kenyans. And Honorable Speaker, I want to support Honorable Senator for Nairobi by what he said is very important. Very, very important, Honorable Speaker. He said, we are not going to allow the same thing that has happened in Bakston to happen in any place, anywhere in this country. And the president should talk to us. We've seen something that has happened in Bakston, something unheard of. Mr. Speaker, you told me don't say theft, but something unheard of. So, Mr. Speaker, this petition, we've learned a lot from this petition. And I'm going to support Honorable Senator for Nairobi. We are ready to demonstrate, to stop this, what do I call it? The so-called developers into trying to siphon money from Kenyans. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. You know, Senator Chute, I don't need to be a lawyer to know the parliamentary language that is useful for this House. Senator Tabitha Keroche.
Sorry.
2 minutes for this because we must conclude these petitions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I stand to support the report of the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation and Housing on petition to the Senate by Mr. John Suma and other residents of Bakston Estate regarding eviction from the demolition of Bakston Estate in Vita constituency of Mombasa County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I really want to say that I'm happy by Senator Sifuna what he said, that whatever has happened to the Bakston people will not happen anywhere else in this country. And for me, I've seen a lot of danger even when we are talking, and I'm happy that I'm in this house when this is happening. Because in our county, Nakuru County, I've seen some notices that I've sent to people who've been living in estates for over 40 years. They've been living in estates for over 40 years. And they've been told that they pay some arrears, that these arrears, the county government doesn't have the proper report because they inherited it from the municipal council now to the county government. So those arrears are not really known whether they are really the proper ones. So they've been given 14 days. And the fear is, these are over 10,000 people living in Nakuru. The fear is, if they leave those houses, then they are given the private developers. These houses will be developed by the private developers, and at the end of it, they will not be able to.
Your time is up, Senator Tabitha. Senator Okech Eddie.
I empathize with the Deputy Minority Leader. I think that, Madam Speaker, in the same breath, I don't need law degree to know unparliamentary language in this House. It's also the same degree that you don't need a law degree to have empathy for leaders of the House sometimes when they ask for 2 minutes. But just a lighter comment, Madam Speaker.
Senator Eddie, you're using your time to make those comments.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Extraneous to the point.
Madam Speaker, what is happening in this country is a creation of oligarchs through schemes that want to use the opportunity of public property to make people who do business with government become oligarchs by basically grabbing land in this country. Period. That is what is happening. That's what is happening with this affordable housing project in general, and that is what has happened in Bakston in particular. We need to call a spade and stop this creation of oligarchs. Madam Speaker, the schemes we are seeing in this country through the affordable housing project, what is happening is very simple. This country has developed a character where people who are in government trade in government. The people that you are seeing as developers are appendage of people who are in government. They are not far from the people who are in government. People just use the fact that they are in power to bring these affordable housing schemes, and then after bringing the affordable housing schemes, because they want to get the land for free, they give those land for free to developers, and in those development farms, they own pseudo shares through proxies. We must stop this, Madam Speaker.
Your time is up, Senator Eddie. Senator Gloria Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to say that it's very unfortunate that we are basing these very strong negative comments because of some unfortunate incidences that happened on a pilot project, because Bakston Housing was a pilot project. Madam Speaker, it is, I would say it would be a crime for someone to say just because they've seen one challenge here and there, and it's good that the House of Oversight, Senate, is highlighting some of the things that went wrong. What we need to do now, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that going forward, a good project is not going to be ruined by cartels. Because, Madam Speaker, affordable housing is a real, let me say, it has already started creating jobs for the youth. It's not even just about the housing, it's about all the jobs that are created on those projects. It's also about the fact that we are trying to solve the issue of unemployment and also win in terms of affordable housing. Madam Speaker, when you look at the Juakali sector, those people are not complaining because it is through affordable housing that finally there's a government that is recognizing their skill and giving them work in terms of mass production of things such as windows, hinges, and things like that. So, Madam Speaker, just because there are a few people who are trying to take advantage of a very good program, I think that should not be the reason why we shut it down. So affordable housing people should remember that it has, the reason why the Kenya Kwanza government started this is creation of jobs and to push our Juakali sector as we are dealing with the issue of not having affordable housing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Oburu Oginga.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to inform Senator Gloria that very good things are normally quoted, are normally used to quote very dangerous things. So what matters is what is under there. Madam Speaker, the land is normally the most expensive part of any housing scheme. And Madam Speaker, if you are given land free, then the concept of affordable housing then comes in, and therefore the houses should be affordable. But if you look at the amount of money these people are reaping off from the Kenyans, the amount at which they are selling these houses, it shows that they are not cheap at all. These houses are not cheap at all. And Madam Speaker, I used to live in Bakston. Bakston is very prime land. It's very, very prime land in the center of Mombasa, and these people grabbed it. Actually, that is just grabbing of the land, acquiring that land free. You should buy the land and then sell them affordably, because the government maybe helps to moderate so that you buy it at a reasonable rate. But you cannot acquire land for free and then sell the properties or sell the houses at commercial prices, and you claim that you are doing an affordable housing scheme. Madam Speaker, I therefore think that this kind of scheme is good, because the words Honorable Ruba is using are very, very nice. It is a very nice scheme. It should not be killed. But then it should now be revised to include these people paying or giving.
Your time is up, Senator. Senator Manzo.
Why is it so early, madam?
Oh, you have talked. Oh, Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to support the report, the petition, that as reported by the committee, actually it's a very unfortunate situation that we are denying the poor Kenyans who lived in Bakston for the last 50 years. They have been moved to the slums, and they have not been given any shares in those houses. They have not been given houses. No, the intention or the purpose of these low-cost houses is to improve the housings in this country. The people who are living actually in slums, you go to the homes, you replace them, and they remain not again the beneficiaries of those houses being built. These houses now have already been taken by middle class who can afford to buy those houses. The poor that own those houses since independence have no homes today. Two, the government has lost the 3 billion worth land, and to give that developer was given free. The materials and everything they are using is tax-free. And we are saying, in this country, we want to collect money and taxing anything that's worth $500 to be taxed. See, this is a very unfortunate situation. Yesterday, we were demolishing so many houses in Mafoko. If you want to improve living, give people houses, and you are still demolishing other houses that have been existing, instead of demolishing those houses in Mafoko, they should have been sold to those people, at least at a low cost prices. I therefore I think this is actually a very unfortunate thing. And as Mashujaa said, this is a scam actually. And this scam must be stopped in this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Information?
Maybe I can. Yeah, no, to inform the speaker, the one who was the Senate. Yeah, I agree with just this thing of grabbing land. I've never grabbed any land, but we should be very careful in this house as the senators to ensure this thing of grab that people are called grab.
Tabitha, just hold on. What is your point of order, Senator Eddie?
But this house is a house of procedure, and that's why I'm up, Madam Speaker. She's not on point of order, she's on point of information. Can you just learn to follow the rules of the House? Madam Speaker, the senator for Nakuru has risen on a point of information. The rules of debate in this House, Madam Speaker, require that if you raise on a point of information, the Speaker who is on floor must agree to that point of information. And in any case, she is informing someone who's not even on the floor, Madam Speaker. Is this in order, Madam Speaker?
Senator Eddie, that objection is upheld. It should have proceeded in a different way. Senator Tabitha, you should have requested for point of information when the senator was on his feet, not after he has finalized his submissions. So, Senator Agnes Modama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this petition. Madam Speaker, I want to agree with the rest of most of the senators who have said that even as we build this affordable housing, where there is a land, a government land or any other land that the government wants to use for affordable houses, and there are people who have built houses there already, they should be given the first chance and the first priority to buy that land instead of demolishing their houses for the same area to be built affordable houses, because those are Kenyans just like the Kenyans who are going to be built for the houses. So, Madam Speaker, I support.
Senator Cherarike.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to support this petition. I want to say from the onset, it looks like some of our members of this House have not read the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. One of the cornerstone of President William Ruto administration is affordable housing. For the benefit and information of the House, the President just launched today handing over of Bakston Phase 1 in Mombasa a few moments ago. So, Speaker, I agree that the people who are petitioners should be given priority in allocation of Bakston Estate. So, Speaker, the aim of affordable housing is to free agricultural land. From where I come, Madam Speaker, it is very important that we now go to affordable housing so that we can free the land for agricultural purposes. And therefore, it is important, I want to advise my colleagues, even on this side, to read the manifesto of the President properly so that they understand the vision and the intention of affordable housing. I would permit the minority side to criticize because their business is just to criticize. And if they criticize, they get political ponga points and mileage. Let us not lose. Mr. Speaker, in my local language, they say when you are chasing a gazelle and a squirrel appears, you don't stop chasing the gazelle because just the squirrel has appeared. Affordable housing is here to stay with us. The appropriation has been done. What we are is teething problems. I agree that since government has given developers public land, then, Madam Speaker, we should allow to be a bit cheaper those houses. But affordable housing program is a vision of the government and the president, and we should all support, because one of the basics of human rights, you and me know, is that housing, shelter, and food is very critical. And there are many 4 million Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, Madam Speaker, that have not gotten a chance to have decent housing in this country. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
We are done with the comments that were to be given against the motion that was on the floor of the House. It was a petition, so we now go to next order, clerk.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader, please. Senator Tabitha.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 2nd November 2022. Report of the Audit General on the financial statements of the Kabwewa County Hospital, County Government of Kisumu for the year ended, that is June 2022. And I lay the paper.
Chairman, Agriculture Committee, Senator Murango.
Madam Speaker, sir. Madam Speaker, sorry.
You cannot use Madam Speaker, sir, in the same sentence. You have
Yes. I'm sorry. It's confusion from Senator. Madam Speaker.
Point of order, Senator Eddy.
Madam Speaker, I don't think that you should have allowed Senator Murango to get away with this. The idea of constantly referring to the Speaker of the House when any female speaker is on that chair as sir is becoming rampant, especially by this particular senator. And Madam Speaker, we are talking on this issue at a time when we have got a serious case that is coming of a governor who happens to be a woman governor that we're going to look at next week, Madam Speaker. So I think that Senator Murango should actually apologize to the Speaker. I rest my case, Madam Speaker.
Senator Murango, while I may not demand an apology, I will call you and caution you to be sensitive to the gender of the Speaker who is chairing the House at any one time and refer to the correct terminology.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'll apologize for that. Although, Madam Speaker, Senator Andy these days is the son to be a terrorist in this House, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, sir.
Senator Murango, do not use unparliamentary language. Please withdraw the use of the word terrorist against the Honorable Senator.
Withdrawn, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 2nd November 2023. Report on the Agriculture and Food Authority Bill 2023, Senate Bills number 13 of 2023. And I beg to lay, Madam Speaker.
Next order. What's your point of order, Senator Madago?
Honorable Speaker, I have a problem with the gadgets in this House because it is letting us down. Will you press the button, wait here, you will be coming to this Senate and you don't get the opportunity to contribute to the motions and the business of the House. I think the Senate should do something about it. I wanted to make comments on this Bakston report, but I pressed the button, but I don't know what is happening. I'm really disappointed because that thing is a very serious matter.
The clerk's desk, can you note the issues that we are having, technical issues that are appearing with the system on different desks, and make sure they are rectified to avoid cutting off senators who want to contribute to important motions in this House. Senator Madago, I believe the technical team should owe you an apology for that mishap. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
This is statement hour. So I want to call Senator Essie to give her statement under Standing Order 52-1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On a light note, I empathize with my chair, Senator Mandago. I know what it feels to wait, because as a committee, we are rushing to catch a flight at 5, so I feel your frustration. We are going for county health visits in Kisii County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on matter of general topical concern, namely the 4-day state visit by King Charles III and Queen Camilla to Kenya. Madam Speaker, King Charles III and Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom are visiting Kenya for a 4-day stay in the country on an invitation by His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. This is a significant occurrence in the country, and do take this opportunity to welcome the King to the splendid of the magical Kenya. The King is not new to Kenya, having visited the country 3 times before becoming King. It shall also be... What has happened? It shall also be recalled that his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, ascended to the throne while vacationing in Nyeri, Kenya in 1952. But of the foremost significance also is that this is the King's first visit to a Commonwealth country and first outside of Europe since his enthronement. This is a great honor to our country, and it speaks to the prominence of Kenya in the international affairs. It is also a great marketing opportunity for our tourism industry, which is on a path of recovery from the adverse effect of COVID in 2020. We must welcome the King of the United Kingdom warmly and see the visit for the opportunity that it indeed is. Madam Speaker, ties between our two countries go far beyond the colonial era. The impact of the English people globally cannot be gainsaid. Their language is the most spoken language in the world. Their ingenuity to export their culture to the Americans, Indians, Australians, and even to us Kenyans is undeniable. It has serious ramifications on the global order and international trade. Ties between Kenya and the United Kingdom are therefore of importance to Kenya for decades to come. It's important to note that currently Kenya and the UK have a trade balance of more than 100 billion. Citizens of both countries have robust interactions and mutual exchange, and this must continue to be encouraged. Madam Speaker, that said, the King must have been appropriately advised to plan a 4-day stay, because in Kenya we have this good Swahili saying about how to treat visitors. Mgeni siku ya kwanza mkaribishe, siku ya pili apumzike, na siku ya tatu mpe jembe. The King has enough time in his state visit to hold the jembe and face some of the unflattering pasts that Kenyans have had. The undeniable lingering impact of colonial brutality on Kenyans by the British as they were establishing the British colony in East Africa and during the struggle for independence, especially during the state of emergency of 1952. The visit should endeavor to smoothen some of these rough edges. The reported cases of British soldiers training in Laikipia murdering our young girls are issues that must not be swept under the carpet. Further, the two governments should come up with a framework of honoring prominent personalities across the various Kenyan communities who fiercely resisted the occupation, such as Mekatalili Wamenza of Mijikenda, Field Marshal Mudhoni Wakirima of the Agikuyu, Koitalel Arap Samoy of the Kalenjin, Morangiti of the Abagusi, and others. Repatriation of historical artifacts held in British museums back to their rightful owner should also be on the table in addressing fractious areas in our past, even as we keep eye on the more beneficial areas of our relationship. Just like the skull of Otenyo lies in a British museum. Madam Speaker, the visit of the King of England is therefore a matter of immense importance to the country, both as a rare mirror of our past relations and as an opportunity to reimagine and reshape our future engagements. I urge this House to take a leading role by speaking itself and setting the tone as to inform future engagement of both our counties. The advent of devolution in Kenya is a major departure from the Kenya which gained its independence from England in 1963. And the Kenya the new king is visiting this week. Opportunities for direct engagement between counties and foreign institutions would be beneficial to the counties, and this Senate is at the center of shaping such possibilities. Finally, Madam Speaker, Kenyans wish to warmly welcome King Charles and Queen Camilla to visit as many of our counties as they can. I invite them to my home county of Kisii. We can organize for our elders for a second enthronement as a Kisii elder. In the meantime, we need to keep a perspective in regard of our past and the future of our two wonderful countries, and how amicably we have addressed the past, even as we work to forge forward in new mutually beneficial relations. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Bungoma. Senator David Wakoli. Statements, Understanding Order 53-1.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Ningependa kuanza na ya kwanza. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya kudumu 53(1) kuomba kauli kutoka kwa kamati ya kudumu ya elimu kuhusu ongezeko la visa vya mimba za mapema kwa wanafunzi wa shule za upili katika kaunti ya Bungoma. Katika kauli hiyo, kamati iangazie yafuatayo. 1. Iarifu Seneti kuhusu idadi ya wanafunzi wa shule za upili katika kaunti ya Bungoma waliopata mimba mwaka huu wa 2023 ikilinganishwa na mwaka uliopita wa 2022. 2. Ibaini sababu zinazopelekea kuongezeka kwa visa hivyo vya mimba za mapema, hususan katika shule ya upili ya Mtakatifu Thomasi Aquinas Chesikaki, ambapo wanafunzi takriban 54 wameathirika. Hii ikiwa ni 22% ya wanafunzi wote shuleni humo. Na 3, ieleze hatua ambazo serikali imechukua dhidi ya wahusika waliopachika mimba wanafunzi hao ili kukomesha hali hii ambayo imeathiri viwango vya masomo katika kaunti hiyo. Hoja ya pili, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nimesimama kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya kudumu 53(1) kuomba kauli kutoka kwa kamati ya kudumu ya barabara, uchukuzi na makao kuhusu hali ya ujenzi wa barabara pacha kutoka makutano ya Sangalo hadi Kandui katika kaunti ya Bungoma. Katika kauli hiyo, kamati iangazia yafuatayo. 1. Iwasilishe hati zote za zabuni kutoka serikali ya kaunti ya Bungoma zilizotumika katika ujenzi wa barabara hiyo, ikiorodhesha vifaa vyote na gharama zote pamoja na gharama za wafanyikazi waliohusika katika ujenzi wa barabara hiyo. 2. Iwasilishe nakala ya makubaliano kati ya serikali ya kitaifa na serikali ya kaunti ya Bungoma kuhusu mradi huo, ikielezea kwa kina kazi inayoendelea na iwapo muda uliokadiriwa kukamilika kwa mradi huo ulipita. Na 3, iarifu Seneti hali halisi ya kifedha ya mradi huo, ikielezea kiwango cha fedha kilicholipwa na serikali ya kitaifa kwa serikali ya kaunti ya Bungoma na sababu zinazopelekea kucheleweshwa kwa malipo ya fedha zilizosalia. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you. Senator Eddie Okech.
Madam Speaker, even as I comment on this statement, I notice that it is addressed here to Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that next time this statement should have Mr. stroke Mrs. or Miss Speaker, Sir stroke Madam. Because, it's my statement, yes, but it's approved by the Speaker's office. Okay? And that approval, mine was. So, Madam Speaker, I take this gender thing very seriously, even in how our things are addressed in this House. But, Madam Speaker, on that note, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 531 to
Your
seek.
point of order, Senator Boni.
Yes. Madam Speaker, I rise on Standing Order number 105.
Can you take your seat, Senator Eddie, please?
The Senator Mekori is misleading the House. In this Senate, the Speaker is a man, and the Deputy Speaker is a man. For any address to that position to be accompanied by MS, MRS, or anything else that is feminine, it would actually, Madam Speaker, be insulting those two people. It is true, Madam Speaker, that from time to time in the chair we find members of the feminine orientation, but you are not speakers. You are members of the Speaker's panel. Is in order to mislead the country that we have got a female Speaker in the Senate of Kenya.
Honorable Senator Boni, I am persuaded to uphold your position that the substantive holder of the Speaker's seat is a man. But I am also obliged to advise that when statements are being read, it is important for the senators who are presenting anything before the House to always note whether the person representing the Speaker is a man or a woman, and adjust the language accordingly so we don't have confusion or we don't send the wrong signal on the Speaker who is presiding over the House. So there is no very correct position, but sensitivity is called for, but the substantive holder of the seat is a man. Meaning addressing the statement to Mr. Speaker, sir, is quite in order.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for educating the Senator for Kakamega on... Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 531 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the position of advisor in the public service of Kenya. Madam Speaker, in this statement, the committee should provide a comprehensive account of the number of individuals employed as advisors to the cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries in the national government executive, disclosing the number of advisors per ministry. Madam Speaker, in the same statement, the committee should also clarify whether the position of an advisor to a CS or a PS is formally recognized within the public service structure, stating their job group. Madam Speaker, in that statement, the committee should further determine whether the recruitment procedures for these advisors align with employment laws and determine whether this upholds the values and the principles articulated in our Constitution. And lastly, Madam Speaker, in the statement, the committee should detail the performance evaluation mechanism for these advisors, shedding light on their remuneration and benefit packages, and making comparison
Honorable members, can you consult in lower tones, because the Honorable Senator should be heard with a bit of regard to what he's presenting before this House.
And I'm reading a very serious statement. And the last point, Madam Speaker, was in the statement, the committee should detail the performance evaluation mechanisms for these advisors, shedding light on their remuneration and benefit packages, and making comparison to other roles within the public service, and state whether it is commensurate with their responsibilities and qualifications. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator for Marsabit County, Senator Mohammed Chute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I have 4 very short statements. I'll start with the first one. This is in regards to an upgrade to bitumen standard of the Oda Bute Danaba Road in Wajir and Marsabit County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the upgrade to bitumen standard in the Oda Bute Danaba Road in Wajir and Marsabit counties. In the statement, the committee should 1. Provide an update on the status of upgrade of the Oda Bute Danaba Road in Wajir and Marsabit counties to bitumen standard, stating reasons for the stalling of the project. 2, Madam Speaker, inform the Senate of how the project was tendered, providing details on the bids received, the contract awardee, and the bid amount, explaining any disparities between the contractual and actual commencement and completion dates of the project. And finally, Madam Speaker, outline any measures put in place to ensure the project is completed without further delay. Moving on to my second statement, Madam Speaker. This is on the status of construction of Korongo Road in Karen, Nairobi County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the status of construction in Korongo Road in Karen, Nairobi City County. Madam Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, provide an update on the status of construction of Korongo Road in Karen, Nairobi City County, stating reasons for stalling of the project. Number 2, inform the Senate of the process used in tendering for the project, providing details of the bids received, the contractor who was awarded the bid, and the bid amount. And third, explain any disparities between the contractual and actual commencement and completion dates of the project, outlining any measures put in place to ensure that the completion of the project without further delay. Moving to my third statement, this is on the sale of affordable housing units under the Marsabit Housing Project in Marsabit County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on the sale by National Housing Corporation of affordable housing units under the Marsabit Housing Project in Marsabit County. Madam Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, clarify whether the National Housing Corporation has sold all the housing units under the Marsabit Housing Project, disclosing the individuals or the entities that have purchased the said units. 2, provide a breakdown of the prices per unit type, stating the terms and conditions of purchase, payment schedule, and financing option, if any. And third, elucidate on the steps involved in the sale process, the criteria used, and identify eligible buyers and the relevant documentation required. My final statement, Madam Speaker, is on the handing over of unfinished projects from the 2nd to the 3rd county government of Turkana County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations regarding the handing over of unfinished projects from the 3rd to the 4th county government of Turkana. Madam Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, provide comprehensive list of all unfinished projects that were handed over by the 2017-2022 administration of the county government of Turkana to the current administration, disclosing any findings of assessment on the feasibility of completing the project. And second and final, outline measures put in place to ensure the completion of any outstanding projects without delay, stating the projected times for any such projects. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. The next statement is by the Chairperson, Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing. I don't see Senator Karungo, so this will be deferred to the next session, next week on Tuesday. So we call upon the Majority Leader to present a statement pursuant to Standing Order 57-1 on the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 7th November 2020.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 57-1, I hereby present the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 7th November 2023. Madam Speaker, As honorable senators are aware, the Meru County Assembly passed a motion on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the governor for Meru County. Consequently, at the sitting of the Senate held on Tuesday, 31st October 2023, the Senate considered a motion pursuant to Section 33(3)(b) of the County Government Act and Standing Order 81(b)(I) of the Senate for the establishment of the special committee to the investigation and report on whether the particulars of the allegations against the governor of Meru County to have been substantiated. Honorable senators will recall that this motion was negatived. That being the case, the default position for the hearing on the impeachment charges against the governor of Meru County will be by the Senate sitting in plenary. As directed by the Honorable Speaker, in this communication issued this afternoon, the Senate will investigate the proposed removal from the office by impeachment of the governor of Meru County in plenary on Tuesday, 7th November and Wednesday, 8th November 2023. Listed in today's order paper at order number 9 is a procedural motion for alteration of the meeting time of the Senate for Tuesday, 7th and Wednesday, 8th November 2023, in order for the Senate to conclude on this matter within the timelines stipulated in the County Government Act and the Senate standing orders. Madam Speaker, in line with the communication issued by the Speaker this afternoon, on the Thursday, 9th November 2023, His Excellency the President is scheduled to address a joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament on the State of the Nation address. I urge all honorable senators to prioritize their presence during these two critical events that hold significant importance for our counties and the well-being of our nation. Madam Speaker, at its meeting held on Tuesday, 31st October 2023, the Senate Business Committee approved the next set of questions to be scheduled in the order paper for Wednesday, 8th November 2023. However, given that the Senate is scheduled to hold a hearing for the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the governor of Meru County on Tuesday 7th and Wednesday 8th November 2023, it has become necessary for the questions to be rescheduled to a later date. I thank you and I hereby lay the statement on the table of the Senate.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senators, we have the statements that have been presented before the floor of this House. I will give members senators only 2 minutes each to comment on those statements, and then we move on to the next order. Senator Chiralike.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Mine is just to comment on what nominated senator stated about the visit of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. So, Speaker, as you have heard, there have been conversation about kingpins in the country, but I'm happy the real king is in town. And you heard our beloved president saying so. Mine is two things. From where I come from is the home of Koitalel Samoe in Nandi County. I've heard the king has apologized for atrocities and brutality that was meant through colonial time in this country. Mine is to appeal to the King Charles and the government of United Kingdom to do proper compensation and repatriation to the Koitalel Samoe, Mau Mau, among other freedom fighters. We'll be very grateful, Madam Speaker, if we are compensated. And you know there is nothing that can repay the pain and anguish, but this compensation must come. Madam Speaker, finally, we also request the British government to assist us in constructing Koitalel Samoe University in Nandi County. If they can give up to 100 billion, we'll have a world-class Koitalel Samoe University, where we'll have a school of law dedicated to Jean Marie Serone Faculty of Law in that university, and also make sure they compensate. And we have brought the head of Koitalel Samoe and also give us money to improve on Koitalel Samoe Mausoleum. If they give us those things, we shall forgive them unconditionally. I support those statements, Madam Speaker.
Senator Oburu Oginga.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to comment on the statement sought by Senator Okech on the issue of advisors. Madam Speaker, this issue of advisors is becoming notorious. It is not only in the national government, it is also with the county governments, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, advisors are employed simply because they don't require too much scrutiny, simply because they don't seek parliamentary approval. Some of them are even senior than those who seek parliamentary approval, go through very rigorous processes. Madam Speaker, it is also important to understand whether these advisors go through, whether their remunerations are also budgeted for. Do they pass through the budgeting process so that they are transparently employed and it is known how much they employ, and also their output, Madam Speaker. It is important also to know the output. What contribution are these people making to our country? Are they just for personal advisor, or they are actually making some serious inputs into the economy of this country, or helping us to improve administration and delivery of services to our people? It is very important to understand this, because there are some advisors, Madam Speaker, used to be in the civil service. There are people who are employed to advise. Some of them were attached to my office, but they were simply just looking after the funds which their people were giving. And they were earning a lot of money. They were earning more money than our own locally employed advisors, Madam Speaker. So we want to really understand what the foreign advisors are.
Your time is up, Senator. Senator Sigei, Wakili.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me the opportunity to comment on the statement. And I would in particular be commenting on the statement by Senator A.C. Ekinyuri. Madam Speaker, as the statement acknowledged, we have King Charles and Queen Camilla in town, and we have been following on the going-ons for the day they came into Kenya, the engagements that they have had. Part of it included a very great state dinner where a number of issues were discussed. As the president was acknowledging their presence, he indeed made comments about the real king being in town. Madam Speaker, this is coming at the time when Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of this House has issued or tabled a report on historical land injustices in the Kipsigis land community in Kericho and Bomet counties, as well as in Nandi County, where communities who were deprived of their land had their cases against the British government. Madam Speaker, I believe that in the course of the engagements by King Charles and the government of Kenya, issues including those ones arose, and an engagement in terms of the relationship between the two countries will ensure that part of the recommendations, which included a demand for compensation and reparation of the entitlement of the residents of the areas where they were displaced, to pave way for multinationals and serious tea growing zones, will be compensated. That recommendation, Madam Speaker, I believe is also an issue that ought to and must feature in the engagements within the visit by the king within town. And also
Senator, your time is up. Senator Oruoba Magono.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to add my voice on Senator Eddie's statement on advisors and whether we need to ask ourselves if we need them or we don't need them. Madam Speaker, in 2008, our former President Kibaki introduced the role of presidential advisors, and we had the likes of Raphael Tuju. And at that time, if there was a time at all to ask what advisors are doing, it was at the time when we had the advisor Tuju, because the roles were not clear. Madam Speaker, I believe the Kenya Kwanza government has actually stipulated and given job descriptions that are public. We know what advisors are doing. We know what the likes of David D are doing. So I think as a House of Oversight, it is not to decide what we need and what we don't need, but to decide whether these roles which are being paid from the public coffers are effective, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Tabitha Keroche.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also want to support Senator Essie's statement on the visit of King Charles and Queen Camilla. We really want to thank them because they chose Kenya as one of the African countries to visit, and they brought in investors, a lot of investors' confidence. And I know that is what we need most, because we need our businesses to start growing and thriving. And we're also happy to see His Excellency. Wow. Also very happy to see His Excellency, the leader of the opposition, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, being State House, and I know now going forward, he will not be questioning those people who go there to State House to look for.
What is your point of order, Senator Eddie?
To look for investment.
What's your point of order, Senator Eddie?
Madam Speaker, the Senator of Nakuru is talking about a name of a person and a leader, distinguished leader of this country. And distinguished leader, Madam Speaker, do I address Boni Aluale, who doesn't understand the rules of this House, or do I address you?
Chair, address the House through the chair.
May you please protect me from Senator Boni?
Proceed on.
So, Madam Speaker, it is clear in this House that if you want to discuss any name of any individual, you must bring a substantive motion to discuss any individual. And the Senator of Nakuru is not only discussing the persona of. I'm on a point of order.
So on a point of order, Senator Chiraliga, maintain
Are you confused
your peace.
today,
Maintain your peace until he finishes.
I'm on a point of order. Let me
order.
finish. I'll finish and I'll be heard in silence.
Finish, Senator Eddie. Can he be heard in silence, Senator Chiralike?
Madam Speaker, not only is the Senator for Nakuru discussing an individual without a substantive motion in this House, but also trivializing the visit of a very serious guest in this country, the King. Can you talk about the agenda that can be able to advance this country instead of bringing this into a local politics, domestic politics, when you have got an opportunity to discuss substantive issues, unless the persona of Raila Odinga is the only way the majority side feels that they can get their legitimacy. If there's an issue of legitimacy by Raila Amolo Odinga visiting the State House, then you feel like you're legitimate as a government, then, Madam Speaker, We can bring that debate and discuss about the legitimacy of the government of the day. But you cannot start discussing Raila in context of the visit.
Your point of order, Senator Eddy.
I've concluded, Madam Speaker.
Senator Eddy, I want to overrule your point of order on the basis that Senator Tabitha has not prejudicially mentioned the leader of opposition. So I will allow Senator Tabitha to continue with her. What is your Cherarike?
When you look under Standing Order number 98 on point of order, it says any senator may raise at a point of order at any time during the speech of another senator, stating the senator raises a point of order, and the senator shall be required to indicate the standing order upon which the point of order is based. Madam Speaker, is it in order for Senator Eddie Oketch to violate the standing order by not even indicating the standing order on which Senator Tabitha was violating? Madam Speaker, I thought through your chair you have always directed that before you stand, you must indicate which standing order are you relying on. Is it in order, Madam Speaker, to rule that Senator Eddie Oketch is out of order on the point of order he raised without giving us a substantive point of order he was standing on, Madam Speaker?
Senator Eddy, while your point of order may have valid concern and may raise valid concern, yet it's overtaken by events now that Senator Eddy has already completed his point of order. So we shall proceed on and allow Senator Tabitha, unperturbed and undisrupted, to continue with his submission, even on the aspect of the leader of opposition visiting the State House yesterday. You can proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know how Eddie is acting emotionally because he remembers when His Excellency visited Migori, he could not even go to welcome His Excellency the President. So now I think now he's free. His Excellency, the leader of the opposition, having visited the State House.
Eddy, I directed that Senator.
It is now very clear. It's now very clear.
Senator Tabitha, can you pause? Senator Eddy, I directed that Senator Tabitha to proceed uninterrupted to finish his submission. I will now, Senator Eddy, you are getting out of order. Can Senator Tabitha proceed?
I'm really finishing. So I'm just saying the Queen and the King and the Queen brought in the investors' confidence that we need so much in this country, and we are happy to see the leader of the opposition visiting the State House, that he has barred all the leaders in the opposition, in the minority, not to be seen in the State House when they are going to look for.
Time is up, Senator Tabitha. We are done with that segment. Senator Eddy, you had Senator Boni Halwale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to laud Senator Konyori and Senator Eddie Oketch for their statements. The issue raised by Senator Oketch is very serious. In the county government, the wage bill has grown to 50.82 billion shillings. And in the national government, Madam Speaker, the wage bill has grown to 1.17 trillion shillings. It's just about time we told Kenyans who is being paid these billions in county governments and trillions in the national government. We need full disclosure, especially, Madam Speaker, in view of the findings in Siaya County and Kakamega County. You heard the concerns of the Senator of Siaya about advisors in their county. I have even a bigger problem in Kakamega. The governor of Kakamega has an advisor for political affairs, has an advisor for economic affairs, has an advisor for youth affairs, has an advisor for gender affairs, and through legislation, he's trying to sneak in an advisor on nuptial issues, Mr. Speaker. This is wasteful expenditure in counties where children drop out of school because of lack of uniform, because of lack of money to pay lunch, because of lack of money to pay a paltry 12,000 shillings for staying in secondary school. This must be clarified. Finally, Esther Kenyuri, the issue of the king. I would like to invite the king to come to Malinya, not for reparations, but to see the area from which the gold that created the 20-feet throne on which he sits in the House of Lords, where the gold came from. It came from Ikolomani, it came from Rostamani in Urambi, and it came from Accra in Ghana. We don't want any compensation, but we just like him to appreciate that we are the ones who have given him the golden seat. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Boni, you have given the gold free from Marinya. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Order number 8, the National Rating Bill, National Assembly Bills, number 55 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide a comprehensive framework for the imposition of rates on land and buildings by county governments, to provide for the valuation of rateable property, to provide for the appointment and powers of valuers, to provide for the establishment, powers and functions of the National Rating Tribunal, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10, motion. Report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application for conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret.
I will now call upon the mover of this motion to reply. Senator Abbas.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to reply the motion of adoption of the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application for conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret, which was laid on the table for the Senate on Wednesday, September 2023, and pursuant to Section 8(6) of the Urban Areas and Cities Act 2011. Honorable Speaker, I wish to start first by expressing my sincere appreciation to all the senators who rose to support this important motion. It was very clear that this motion was supported from both sides of the House, and I think I want to say my sincere, this was actually a statement to support, clear statement of determination to empower or devolve units to grow economically and develop into a sustainable and self-sufficient. As you are aware, Honorable Speaker, urbanization is one of the powerful and irreversible forces in the world. Urbanization and economic growth are positively linked because of the essential role it plays in a nation's development towards a stronger and more stable economy. Cities, towns, and other urban areas provide economies of scale, enhance agglomerations, attract talents and skilled labor, and serve as hubs for production and service centers. As you are aware, many other municipalities are waiting for this to be confirmed, and the next maybe they are requesting for confinement of cities, and I think it is a high time we need to have more cities in this country, the likes of Kakamega, from where our majority whip is coming from, and many others are actually in the waiting list. And as the Committee of Devolution, we will do our best to at least go the extra mile to see more municipalities come as cities. Honorable Speaker, the Committee of Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations is keen on ensuring effective governance and management of cities, towns, and urban areas in the country for service delivery and economic transformation. It is actually noteworthy for the Eldoret is the second municipality that the committee has recommended to be conferred city status after Nakuru. As you're aware, Eldoret has been actually a municipality since 1953 and meets all the requirements and has an ample land for expansion. About 146 square, currently it's sitting on 146,000 square kilometers, and there's more land that's actually available for development. That there's new area that has been earmarked for the city to at least be built, a new city. Anybody who's wishing to invest, the likes of Honorable Segei, I think is ready to invest in Eldoret to take at least this opportunity at least time possible. The committee is actually very pleased and inspired by the positive contribution of the honorable senators, and they took keen note of all these issues that the House observed and advised with regards to the management of the urban areas. The committee will endeavor to engage with the relevant authorities in the city and the municipality, so that at least there are a few issues, like the roads are still narrow, they need to be expanded, the water issue, and then the issue of the farms. There are farms that will be covered as the city expands, but I think that is not a big deal, because if you see today in the city of London, one of the oldest cities in the world, it is surrounded by big farms. If you fly London, you will see cattle or around beautiful lawns where the animals being kept. There are horses there, there are sheep there. Therefore, I think Eldoret will not be exceptional to have also big farms around the city. And therefore, I think it is still, we can be able to accommodate those big farms as part of the beautification of the city. Honorable Speaker, may I also take this opportunity to commend my members, for the committee members, for the devolution and for their commitment and duty which they made, the consideration of the application for conferment of the city of status of Eldoret. I also wish to thank the Office of the Speaker and the Clerk for their support. Lastly, I wish to thank the stakeholders and the citizens of Eldoret municipality who appeared before the committee and presented their submissions regarding the conferment of the city and the municipality of the status. I think I want to say the governor of Eldoret and the committee that he has formed for the conferment of the municipality has done a wonderful job, and they have allowed us to see all over the city, the beautiful city it is, the city of champions, and therefore, so I want to say viva to the people of Eldoret for that today that Eldoret will be conferred as a city status. Honorable Speaker, having said that, having looked around the House, I think there are not enough delegates for the purpose of division, and therefore I seek your guidance to defer the division of the motion. Thank you.
So the division is deferred under Standing Order 66.3 and will be done during the next session of Senate, that is next week on Tuesday. Next, Order Clerk. We are also going to rearrange the order paper to enable us conduct the business that is able to be conducted in view of the members who are in the Senate today. So we'll ask the clerk to call out order number 19.
Order number 19, the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Senator Chiralike, you had a balance of 29 minutes when this matter was adjourned, so you may proceed to debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I want to thank the House. Yesterday, I proceeded midway. I think I'll not take much of the remaining time to allow my colleagues to comment on, because I was midway. Madam Speaker, the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill 2023, I want to repeat, is to in a way to ensure that mechanisms of preventing, combating, and eventually eradicating livestock and produce theft. And my heart goes out to the people of Baringo, who, a number of them, they have been source of insecurity for the last 2-3 days, but we hope the government can arrest the situation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this issue of cattle rustling is very uncomfortable in this age and time. We hope with the current security operators in place, should be having to ensure, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I want to urge all counties to ensure they have a proper place in pushing this agenda, Madam Speaker. And of course, the King is in town. That goes without notice, and I hope the King does not listen to what the former people who occupied these lands many years ago would listen to. Madam Speaker, and I want to emphasize what Deputy Majority Leader said, that State House is a public entity, and each and every Kenyan is allowed to visit State House and meet the President. And I hope ODM will suspend their disciplinary action against members of Parliament who have visited State House to discuss development, since their party leader has also visited State House. Madam Speaker, on the aspect of offenses, Madam Speaker, on the aspect of offenses, I have come up that we need to stop this menace. The biggest challenge, and I say there, in Baringo, in Elgeyo Marakwet, and northern and central Kenya, is because of lack of development, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we need, now that Kindiki is pushing for security, the necessary agencies like Ministry of Roads and Transport should ensure there are security roads. Madam Speaker, they should push to ensure there are security roads within those regions, Madam Speaker, so that when an insecurity occurs, the police can reach those areas. Because, Madam Speaker, when you visit those areas, you realize they have impassable roads, Madam Speaker. And I hope the Interior Ministry and Ministry of Roads should work together to ensure there are provision of security roads, Madam Speaker. But we are not saying they should only do security roads in those areas, but ensure Nandi gets roads, Madam Speaker, so that we can access, and part of Kenya, the entire of this part of the world, ensure that we do that, Madam Speaker. And I think if we can provide security roads in those areas, ensure they're accessible, it will allow ease of movement and even bring development. Schools should be there and many other aspects, Madam Speaker, so that we can ensure that we develop our country across. So schools should be developed, roads should be developed, hospitals should be there, so that those people feel they are part and parcel of Kenya. Madam Speaker, when I was growing up, when the people from Turkana used to come to Nairobi or other parts of the country, they used to say, I come, natoka Turkana, ndio nimefika Kenya. We want that thing to be done and be over to. So we must commit, the way we finish issues of FGM, the way we finish many other issues, Madam Speaker, we should be ready to tackle the issue of cattle rustling and banditry, Madam Speaker. And I saw the police in Baringo and I sympathize. They cannot pursue those criminals because the terrain, they know those terrains more than we do because of lack of roads, Madam Speaker. And my advice to the people in charge of those police officers is that they should work towards this end, Madam Speaker, and avoid doing politics at the expense of doing their job. Madam Speaker, there is also issue of branding another person's livestock. We have banned that, and if you are found to have branded another person's livestock, we shall fine you 1 million or 14 years in prison. Because we are bringing, let us brand the animals, brand them. When you come and sell in Dagoretti Corner or other abattoirs, that abattoir must have proper records of the animals they are slaughtering. Madam Speaker, a person who steals livestock or produce or receives any livestock or produce knowing or having reason to believe then be stolen livestock or produce, we are bringing, commits an offense and shall be liable to not less than 20 years. Madam Speaker, on the aspect of using violence, especially where deaths have occurred, when you are stealing livestock, for the criminals, and they should be warned, is to a term of life imprisonment. So if you are found stealing animals or livestock forcefully using violence, you must be punished with that, with no option of fine, but to be life term of imprisonment. So all the bandits and cattle rustlers who have been taking advantage, Madam Speaker, they should be warned, they will go in for 15 years. Number 3, Madam Speaker, if you incite, procures, directs, instigates, or colludes with another person, and this is a warning to my colleague politicians, or any person who condones the issue of cattle rustling and banditry or livestock stealing, you will be ready if you participate in procuring, inciting, hires, and these are criminal enterprises that finance cattle rustling and cattle theft in this country. If you are even a financial seated in Nairobi, that you are sending criminals to steal animals in northern Kenya or North Rift, if we arrest you and get you, you must be put in without an option of fine, Madam Speaker, to not land less than 15 years. If we find you also trespassing with the intent of stealing cows or livestock, you will not be, if you find you just trespassing, you have not stolen, you have trespassing, you will not less than, not exceeding 7 years. And Madam Speaker, number 5, no person shall without lawful authority drive or convey or transport any livestock produced along public road unless that person is in possession. So you must have what we call removal permits. So I have seen many lorries who transport animals to Nairobi for slaughter. If you don't have removal permit, you don't have the details of where you bought those cows, Madam Speaker, you should be ready. You should be ready, that person, and proof, Madam Speaker, everything. You must have all the removal permit. There are details on how you remove, where did you buy, what is the description of the animals, where is it going, who are you selling to, where they purchased, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that is the aspect that we want to introduce, Madam Speaker, is required to have in terms of subsection 1. The one who contravenes, Madam Speaker, must be ready for punishment, and if you alter or insist on tampering or brand or ear, for example, people want to steal animals and go and remove the branding, Madam Speaker, we are going to punish you for 3 years or a fine of 1 million. So if you steal animals and you go and change the branding and destroy, Madam Speaker, you should be ready to a fine of 1 million or 3 years. Madam Speaker, we are also going to be very keen, and members should listen to this. There will be no allowance of movement of animals between 6:30 p.m. up to 6 a.m. in the morning. So if we find you transporting animals beyond 6:30 along the road or before 6 a.m., then you shall be punishable by law. And that person will be punished either for 12 months or you will need to be paid 800,000 as a fine. Madam Speaker, finally, the 6th point, illegal possession of livestock. If we find you having livestock that you cannot explain, I know in where I come from, sometimes you find a cow which is training and you're keeping it. But if we find livestock that you do not have possession of in your place and you cannot explain, we shall ensure you go in for the next 15 years. And even illegal possession of produce. Madam Speaker, the 6th, and you know this issue of cattle rustling and banditry is a very complicated topic. And I hope my colleagues will bear with me. A person who kills any livestock with intent. These are, you know, nowadays, Madam Speaker, the cattle rustlers and banditry who steal livestock have changed strategy. They go and slaughter, including donkeys. We have seen cases where donkeys or animals have been slaughtered. If we find you have slaughtered so that you bring carcass to Nairobi, Madam Speaker, you shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment for not less than 10 years. So be warned, if you are slaughtering donkey somewhere, you are slaughtering a chicken somewhere, you are slaughtering an animal somewhere, Madam Speaker, it will be an offense that will attract not less than 10 years. I know there are experts who normally slaughter donkey, Madam Speaker, and sell unknowingly. And I want to repeat what I said yesterday, Madam Speaker. We could be knowingly or unknowingly financing the cattle rustling. Because the meat that is on the table, either in canteen, cafeteria of parliament, or across the country, you could knowingly or unknowingly be a case of stolen animal. Madam Speaker, what happens when you seizure the animals? The law says that when animals have, let's say Jeshu have gone on a military operation order in Kericho Valley or Tiati or Kapedo or Northern Kenya, Mandera, when they take these animals, they must release within 3 days or 72 hours to the owners so that, Madam Speaker, we ensure. That is what I wanted to insist. So I want to assure the public, when you lose your animals and police investigate and seizure, they should release upon proof of ownership within 72 hours. Madam Speaker, we need to punish the financiers. Upon application made by law enforcement, to the court may make an order for investigation by the law enforcement into the dealings and assets. So what I am proposing, Madam Speaker, if we find you as a financier of livestock theft and cattle rustling and banditry, we have the courts can order investigation into you and have your assets being frozen and those assets being recovered, because we believe that has been used, and even freezing of your assets. So what we are doing is killing the head. We are not going for the small bandits who run around in Kericho County among other areas. We are going for the financiers. And when we get you as a financier, we must use asset recovery and freezing, Madam Speaker. I had said the seventh one is on public awareness, Madam Speaker. We shall ensure that we sensitize, and that is the work of counties and CEC, because CECs have a role of ensuring there is branding, appointment of inspectors, Madam Speaker. The fourth last point is that we are now giving option of ADR. We appreciate where Senator Peris Tobiko and others we come from. We value ADR. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that Section 34, the county executive shall collaborate with elders and gatekeepers of communities in promoting the use of community dispute resolution, including mediation in determination of any disputes regarding livestock theft. Because, Madam Speaker, livestock theft, from where Senator Peris Tobiko comes from, Madam Speaker, sometimes they allow ADR. You know, sometimes where you come from in the past, you could not get married without participating as a form of ritual or initiation into adulthood or in marriage, Madam Speaker. So we are proposing that let us have ADR. Even our constitution, Madam Speaker, allows that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the general, if you offend this law, Madam Speaker, we are proposing less than 500 years to imprisonment for 5 years, or 5 years, not 500 years. No one will be sorry for that, to imprisonment for not exceeding 2 years or to both. Madam Speaker, the counties, after we pass the Cabinet Secretary, Madam Speaker, for the registration and identification of livestock, for removal or convenience of livestock, management of livestock centers, sensitization, and charges and fees to be paid by registrar under this act. So we are giving power, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in finality, the purposes of Article 94(6) of the Constitution, what we are going to do, in conclusion, what we are going to do, Madam Speaker, is we are going to, I know there is existence of Stock and Produce Theft Act, Penal Code Prohibiting Livestock and Produce Act, Madam Speaker. I know there is Penal Code 278 of the Criminal Procedure Code. My intention in this bill, and with the support of the Senate and National Assembly, Madam Speaker, but the point I wanted to insist is that for these areas to stop, let us be deliberate in terms of development. Let us ensure equity and equitable. And I'm happy that the President said that, that this will be government that will wipe out the issue of cattle rustling across the country. My heart goes out to empathies and sympathies to many families who have lost their livestock and their loved ones because of this insecurity, Madam Speaker. And I want to urge that the Minister of Education should move in speed and establish education centers, rehabilitation centers, Madam Speaker. I went to West Pokot and I'm happy that the President during campaign, even when he was the Deputy President, he presided over an Arambe to bring back the Morans who used to participate in cattle rustling, Madam Speaker. We must build rehabilitation centers through the Ministry of Interior. Madam Speaker, I want to encourage Ministry of Interior also to put in place the National Police Reservists in terms of equitable basis. Because the argument we are hearing, this community says they are being, KPR are being armed, this one has been armed, Madam Speaker. So what we are just saying is that let us ensure that, and then number 3 is, my proposal is very simple. Why don't we get young people, these reform bandits, to be hired by National Police Service Commission as police officers? Then they are sent back to the terrain of Kapedo, Tiati, all those areas, North Rift, Northern Kenya, because they understand the terrain, Madam Speaker. You are taking somebody who grew up in Nairobi, went to Kikanjo, then you take them to Tiati or Kapedo to fight bandits, or even in Baringo or North Rift, Madam Speaker. Why don't we change and even reform them and then put them to fight and ensure that we win the war against that, Madam Speaker? That is the only way we can finish. And I told you, 60% of our homes depend on gross domestic product, Madam Speaker. So I want to urge the Ministry of Interior, working together with the Ministry of Education, and finally, Ministry of Roads and Transport, Madam Speaker. Let them ensure that there is security of roads in this country, Madam Speaker. And luckily enough, the Minister of Roads comes from Elgeyo Marakwet County, where we're having a problem. He should be busy fixing those roads in Elgeyo Marakwet called security roads, so that we don't have problems instead of belittling and demeaning us in funerals and other forums, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for the branding to facilitate and recovery of livestock, we have said we will do that to ensure in place, Madam Speaker. But I want to continue emphasizing that we need good roads, Madam Speaker. Let us have a proper mechanism so that we can go into the future. Finally, Madam Speaker, before I allow Senator Peris Tobiko to second this bill, is to thank your office for overwhelming support, guidance through the process of drafting, through the process of supporting, Madam Speaker, through the process of ensuring that it is published within specific areas, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, with those very, very many remarks, I want to call upon the House to assist in expediting the bill so that in the next few months, this bill can be in place, so that we put the last nail on the coffin on the issue of livestock theft, cattle rustling and banditry and other forms of criminals that continue to steal our livestock. Madam Speaker, with those, I beg to move and request that Senator Peris Tobiko, my sister, and the future governor of Kajiado to second me. I thank you.
Senator Peris Tobiko.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thank you, and let me begin by congratulating the mover, Senator Cherargei, because of taking this noble issue and bringing it to the floor of this House, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a very important bill. To maybe 3/4 of this country, of livestock keepers, because I believe livestock keepers occupy maybe 3/4 of the nation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the livestock and livestock produce industry is huge. It's very huge, Madam Speaker. It is an industry that cannot be ignored, Madam Speaker. It's an industry that is lucrative.
Hii investigation sasa ile wewe limaliza, wewe lipata mimi ni nani ya marehemu?
Wewe ni ndugu yake.
Na wewe lipata hii msichana Lucy ni nani yake?
Ni mtoto yake, hata kama sio biological, yeye ameadapt na akachukua hiyo majukumu ya mzazi kwake.
Yes, I think that is correct, because automatically wewe